Mnet, Lesotho Sun Dak van Afrika tijdren. Die 7de ronde van die Total GTE More Expensive Toys. And for 3 days, the Mountain Kingdom is alive with off-roaders. Lesotho Sun and Mnet bring you highlights of day 1 of the 1991 Roof of Africa Rally, round number 7 of the Total GTE Championships. As usual before the roof, the Lesotho Sun's parking lot is chock-a-block with men and machines. The historic event celebrates its 25th birthday this year, and 140 drivers and bikers have arrived to pit their skills against the elements. For many competitors, it's a chance to meet up with old friends they see only once a year. Others scurry around doing last-minute and very vital pre-race preparations to their machines. One topic of conversation dominates. Will it or won't it rain? Clerk of the course, Peter Luck, gave us his predictions.
Well, we've got half an hour until the first race, and although the weather report said it was going to be clear today, it looks like, looking at the clouds, that we might even have rain before the start. So we may have roundhouses in the rain, which will be a lot of fun for the drivers.
The equipment may have changed over the years, but the spirit and tradition of the event have always remained the same. Preceding the race proper is the parade through the capital before competitors get stuck into some serious dicing. First off, in the round the houses section were the very competitive Class 8 Space Frames. Adrenaline and tension were much in evidence amongst drivers and their crew as they waited for the starting flag to drop. For the excited bystanders crowding the pavements, the street racing was a chance for them to witness real action. With a blast of power, they're off in spectacular style. The Basotho Hat Corner is a favorite with competitors and often provides some interesting action. For the moment, though, the main priority is moving ahead and staying there. Among the hot contenders to win the section are Klaas Deegene and Robin Yates in the Duckham's Chenoweth, and Bux Carrollin and Kenny Goldhammer in their Porsche-powered Castrol Raceco. Both cars are quick, both drivers capable of winning the event. Donderdag afgeskop in die tradisionele round the houses seksie, wat definitief die mees opwindendste seksie is soverre die toeskouers aangaan. Die bakkies was maar een van die 10 kategorieë of klasse waarin die voertuie kon deelneem. Soos gewoonlik was dit die voormalige dakwenners Philip Malan en Richard Leek wat die pas aangegee het in hulle turbo aangejaagde Toyota Hilux. 'n Span wat hulle goed opdraande gegee het was AP Reyneke en Lucas Dreyer, ook voormalige dakwenners in hulle BP Ford. Ongelukkig was die span se BP Ford en hulle diensvoertuig 'n paar dae voor die byeenkoms betrokke in 'n ongeluk, wat veroorsaak het dat hulle stuurprobleme ondervind het. Die probleem sou later hulle onttrekking tot gevolg hê. Nog 'n gunsteling span was Bux Carrollin en Kenny Goldhammer in hulle klas 8 Castrol Yokohama Raceco. Hulle sou egter 45 minute verloor as gevolg van radkasprobleme. Setting a good pace in the beginning, avoiding a repeat of last year when he spun out and nearly caused chaos, he wasn't quick enough to beat Philip Malan and Richard Leek, whose turbocharged Toyota Hilux romped home first. The 250cc's were the first motorcycles away. Jannie de Bruin on his dirt rider shop Kawasaki gave the crowd some exciting action when he had a spill on the tire. For the rest, though, it was open throttle all the way. 3 times roof winner Alfie Cox, mounted on his Ford Fire Kawasaki, was expected to give fellow Springbok Jeremy Davies on his Truck Africa KTM a good dice. And in fact, it was a very close finish. In the provisional results, Cox won the 250 category, fractionally ahead of Davies, the two of them taking 2nd and 3rd overall, while quickest overall was Errol Dalton on the BP Hutz diesel Kawasaki. In the time trial, 1990 roof winner Richard Schilling and navigator Rob Walk lost the lead when Klaas Deegene and Robin Yates Duckham's Chenoweth overtook the Motortech Raceco. The racing guards weren't smiling on Springbok's Bux Carrollin and Kenny Goldhammer, however. Despite setting a furious pace initially, trouble arrived when their normally reliable Castrol Yokohama Raceco ground to a halt with gearbox problems. Much valuable time was wasted while they diagnosed and then administered some mechanical first aid.
shifter's broken inside the gearbox.
Previous Roof of Africa winners Philip Malan and Richard Leek went like rats out of an aqueduct from start to finish. Having had a bad season so far, and with only one race remaining on the national calendar, they'd love a good result here in Lesotho. So far, so good. Their turbocharged Hilux looked and sound very impressive. Taking the Lesotho dust and terrain in their stride and giving an equally good performance in the Bakkie Brigade were Class 5 stars Alfred van Vuren and Beert Pelser in their Toyota Hilux. The Free State pair are currently leading the National Championship commercial vehicle category, and a good result at the roof would consolidate their point standing. But the rally team of Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington weren't letting the grass grow under their wheels either. Also in a Class 5 Toyota Hilux, the two were looking equally efficient as they negotiated the rocky route. Good vehicle preparation is vital if competitors want to succeed in off-road racing, and it's something at which this team excels. A familiar sight amongst the Class 9 single-seaters is Harry Roscoe's Protea playing card raceco. His quick performance today earned him a class win in the round the houses and the time trial to give him 4th overall for the day's racing. He's been plagued by bad luck this season and is hoping the roof will change his fortunes.
I think the single-seaters are due for a win, and if any car can get through, I know my car can get through. And if any driver can get through, I know I can get through.
Unlike many previous occasions this year, Wolf-Peter Fumpai negotiated his WPP buggy through the incredibly rocky section of the speed trial with remarkable ease. Representing Lesotho were former championship winners Wilfried Veslau and Dagmar Blankner in the VW bread van. The pair went on to win their class overall for the day. But life wasn't quite as much fun for others in their class. Former Class 8 driver Derek Pinoy and his navigator Antoine Meyrung were having a spot of trouble in their Beetle and not looking too charmed about it either. Pinoy is back in the driver's seat after a season of navigating for Klaus Degener and was hoping to at least finish the race. Production vehicle category leaders Steve Parker and VZ van Zyl had a minor mishap earlier when another bakkie nudged them during the round the houses. However, it doesn't seem to have affected their performance at all. Provisional results for the day saw Philip Malan and Richard Leek the quickest overall in their Toyota Hilux, followed by Richard Schilling and Robbie Walk in the Motortech Raceco. Despite being the quickest 250 around the houses, Alfie Cox on his Ford Fire Kawasaki landed up down in 4th spot at the end of the speed section. Arch rival Jeremy Davies on the Truck Africa KTM set up the 3rd fastest time overall around the houses, and like Alfie Cox ended up in 3rd spot overall. Gavin Nimmo on his Winston Yamaha set up the same time as Davies in the round the houses section and finished 2nd overall for the day. John Hodgson finished 7th in the round the houses and 10th in the time trial on his Pelham Products KTM 250, and is a likely contender for overall honours. Willie Island on the Super Tyres KTM and 250 championship leader Anthony Taylor on the Vinro Brick Suzuki had a neck-and-neck ride for part of the time trial.
Just returned from Europe about a month ago. I was racing in the World Championships over there. It was tremendous for me. I learned so much from the guys. They ride on a much higher level. They're really professional. I was working in Germany with a world champion himself, and he taught me a lot about bike preparation. And through him, I managed to organize myself a bike and bring it home.
Hilton Hayward put his overseas experience to good use during the speed trial to move up from 6th place into the overall lead. If today's performance is anything to go by, Hayward can be counted on to achieve an excellent overall result on the Super Tyres KTM. Springbok Errol Dalton rode a superb race on his BP Huds diesel Kawasaki KX500 to pick up overall honours in the round the houses and 5th overall for the day. Former stuntman Mark Myron on his Castrol Honda fell during the round the houses and worked his way up from the 18th to 9th overall by the end of the day. The 200 class was an all-action affair as usual, with Winston Yamaha star Richard Manning making it into the top 10 overall. Manning already has a 1,000-kilometer victory under his belt and can be regarded as a dark horse for overall honours. Brian Bontekoning, still smarting from his disqualification in the Mobatu Sun 500, is hoping to make amends and finish well. Yuri Himan, now fully recovered from his foot injury, showed a welcome return to form on his Hutz Diesel Kawasaki KDX 200. The provisional results see Hilton Howard in the lead, ahead of Dalton, Andrews, Island, DuPont and Myron. Join us on Sutusan Roof of Africa Rally, round 7 of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship. Today's section of the grueling event saw motorcycling competitors covering 362 kilometers with 5 fuel stops en route. The cars would stop only once for fuel and travel slightly further. The previous day's speed trial results meant that Philip Milan and Richard Leake would be first off the line in their Toyota Hilux, followed closely by 7 impatient space frames.
If they do pass us, we're going to just pressurize them all the time, and we hope that tiresomeness and faults are going to put them out and put us back where we want to be.
How are you going to keep him under control? He's known to be one who's not too restrained in his approach.
Well, I've got a hacksaw. I'm going to cut his horns off as soon as they pop up. And then I've got a cattle prodder for later on. 25,000 volts should do it.
We're going to use 4 eyes and our experience that we've got in the roof over the years. I think combined we must have 20 years of experience in the roof. And put that to good use.
There was panic in the Toyota camp as Milan and Leake realized they had no crash helmets, vital necessities for any off-roader. They'd been mistakenly left in the service van. With a 5:30 a.m. starting time almost upon them, an anxious Milan trying to find the service vehicle and the helmets. But time waits for no one. Richard Schilling and Robbie Walk moved up a place and set off first in their Mototech Raceco, while Milan set off in search of both van and helmets.
Richard, what's all the drama about?
Drama's about our crash helmets are sitting in our service van, unfortunately. And as you know, with off-road racing, you have to wear a crash helmet. And we're just trying to borrow another couple of crash helmets quickly so that we can go. So we've already lost about 3 minutes.
With Milan and Leake delayed, it was up to Alfred van Vieren and Piet Pelser in their Class 5 Hilux to restore Toyota's honor. The Castrol Barberspin 500 winners set off 5th. Meanwhile, Milan and Leake had sent someone to intercept their service van, which had been en route to the refuel point. Within minutes, they had their helmets and were back in the Hilux. Tension and frustration evident as they strapped themselves into their seats. This mistake had cost them 7 valuable minutes, and for a team normally meticulous in pre-race preparations, surely left them with red faces. An hour after the vehicle's departure would be the turn of the motorcycles. First off would be Hilton Hayward on his KTM, with Gavin Nimmo on the Yamaha 2nd and Jeremy Davies mounted on the KTM 3rd. The riders had the luxury of a later start, setting off an hour after the vehicles.
The 2 passes coming up the tail end umpires are so bad as they are in the dry, and if it rains seriously, we'll be out there forever. There's just no traction in the wet on those 2 passes.
I'm hoping to be able to pace myself until then and save my energy and then, you know, give it everything I got at Leteli. And hopefully I can pull enough ahead then to just pace myself again after the telly and see what happens, hopefully come in first.
I'd like to do something. I haven't had much luck this year in the Nationals, as everybody knows, and being the national champion this year, I'd like to just win this race, just to know that I can still do it.
On the start line, tension mounted as riders waited for the flag to drop. Ahead of them stretched a long and tough day. And they're off, with Hayward in the lead. The excitement of off-roading is that no matter who's leading at the start of the day, 300 or 400 kilometers later could see a completely different set of results. The peace and quiet of Maputeng is rudely shattered by the distinctive whine of a raceco. It's Richard Schilling and Robbie Walk in their Mototech Raceco with a 2.5-minute lead on the rest of the field. Long-distance races are Schilling's forte. Last year he won the 1,000-kilometer Toyota Desert Race and also took the winner's laurels at the 1990 Roof. He's known for meticulous vehicle preparation, and this, coupled with consistently good driving, may well earn him another Roof win. local businessman Ashley Thorne was looking good in his Maluti as he and navigator Pepe Mart powered their way up from 10th position to 2nd overall. Born and bred in Lesotho, Thorne would dearly love to win this event. Sitting 11 minutes behind the leading cars and in 3rd place were Klaus Degener and Robin Yates in the Duckham's Chenoweth. Yates won the roof 2 years ago driving his own vehicle and had hopes pinned on Degener to score him another victory. Husband and wife team Arnold and Estelle Mathieu were lying 4th in their Mayerton Toyota Raceco, with Milan and Leek behind them. Steadily making his way through the field was first-time roof entrant young Greg Wiebel, along with navigator Warren Klaassen in the Raceco Kojima. These locals could have done with some extra horsepower. Leading Class 10 were the Pieterse brothers, Ferdi and Johan in their Orco. They were being pursued by Herman Sulwald in his Sandmaster and Wolf-Peter Vumfai in the WPP buggy. Another one bites the dust. Having problems with his Class 9 Fortfire Raceco was Carl van Rensburg Sr. Behind him, and in a similar predicament, were Springboks Bux Carolyn and Kennish Coldhammer in a Porsche-powered Castrol Yokohama Raceco. Although Carolyn got going again soon afterwards, Van Rensburg was forced to withdraw with clutch problems. Regular roof entrants Fufolo Shai and Nkopani Kwacha of the Royal Lesotho Defence Force were back again this year in a new Toyota Hilux. A great improvement, they said, on the heavier old Toyota Land Cruiser they formerly drove. Overtaking them here were R.P. Reyneke and Lucas Dreyer in their BP Ford, which started way back in the 51st place and had steadily moved through the field. Reyneke rolled both his truck and his service vehicle 2 days before the roof and is still sporting a black eye from the incident. The pace and the action was hotting up among the motorcyclists who reached the Maputeng area. Hilton Hayward was retaining a slim lead of 21 seconds over multiple roof winner Alfie Cox, mounted on a Fortfire Kawasaki, and Jeremy Davies on his Truck Africa KTM. Natal's Alfie Cox is known for his sharply tuned navigational skills, which combined with unmistakable riding talent have helped him win the roof 3 years in a row. Cox could afford no mistake with arch-rival Jeremy Davies breathing down his neck. Unbeknown to these locals, their peace and tranquility is about to be very rudely interrupted. Leading the 200cc category and setting a flying pace was reigning class champion Brian Bontekoning on his Winston Yamaha. Bontekoning was only 46 seconds ahead of teammate Richard Manning. Lying 10th overall and second in the 200s, Manning wasn't doing too badly at all. He recently won the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, and we spoke to him about his chances of winning another 1,000-kilometer event.
I think the odds are very slim here because of the high speeds on the dirt roads and that, but if something goes wrong with the cars, we're in with a bit of a chance.
The third 200 through this water splash was Graham McLachlan on his Lesotho office equipment Kawasaki KDX. Greg Wiebel and Warren Klaassen were locked in a titanic battle for the lead with defending roof champion Richard Schilling and navigator Robert Walk. Just what an off-roader doesn't need, especially if he's Klaus Degener. He and Robin Yates were delayed with a right rear puncture and problems with their left front suspension, which broke loose from the chassis of their Duckham's Chenoweth. However, Degener is one of the most tenacious drivers around, and it'll take more than this to stop him from carrying on with the race. Besides, one thing off-roaders excel at is making a plan.
We did hit a rock, but it didn't. There was nothing wrong with it then. But I think it's just fatigue.
The spirit of the roof is what makes this legendary race such a special event. If you see someone stuck, you stop and offer to help. Harry the Rocket Roscoe was going flat out in his Protea playing card Raceco until he saw Degener at the side of the road. Despite lying third overall, he still risked losing valuable time as he stopped to see if any help was needed.
It's a shocking thing to happen, this.
Oh, Robert, that's what as I said, at least I've got to have a laugh with this oak.
Carolyn and Schuldhammer were moving up the field and in a healthy 7th position after starting 45 minutes after the leaders. They were followed by Class 3 leaders Theo Kutsia and Ian Wedderburn in their Chev. As we said, off-roaders always make a plan. Deegan and Yates disconnected the broken shock and very carefully headed on towards the finish at Katsi. Leading the Class 2s were Derek Penoy and Antoine Meyrung in their Volkswagen Beetle. They done exceptionally well, having started off in 26th position and moved up to 10th place. Motorcycle leader Jeremy Davies had gained a 7-minute lead over the rest of the two-wheelers on his Truck Africa KTM. Second overall was a flying Alfie Cox on the Fort Fire Kawasaki. Dehydration is an ever-present problem for riders, and to prevent this, they usually carry 2 liters of water in special bags strapped to their chests and backs. A scant 3 minutes behind Cox was Springbok Errol Dalton on his BP Hutz diesel Kawasaki, the 500cc class. At Katsi, up in the mountains, was the finish and overnight stop.
You can hear them, eh?
An anxious Brian Weevil scanned the horizon for son Greg and navigator Warren Klaassen. Seconds later, the pink Raceco Kojima hurtled into view. He had an exciting battle with Schilling and Deegener, he said, before shaking them off his tail.
We sat together, Richie, myself, and Klaas, and then we got lost together. We found the route again, and then Klaas dropped off. I don't know what happened to Klaas.
The day's racing was dominated by space frames, with Raceco occupying the first 4 places. Leading the motorcycles into the finish was Springbok Jeremy Davies on his Truck Africa KTM. His overseas campaign this year seemed to have given him that vital edge necessary for this event. A healthy 7 minutes separated him from fellow Springbok Alfie Cox on the Fort Fire Kawasaki, who'd been hindered by suspension problems.
The problem is, it's hilly, then you go ramp then you climb the pass, and it's cold, eh? And your muscles freeze. You can't move your hands. So it's heavy going.
The top 10 motorcycles home comprised 5 KTMs, 2 Kawasaki's, 2 Yamahas and a Honda, with the 250s dominating. Stretch took its toll on men and their machinery, and at the overnight stop at Katsi, repairs were carried out well into the night. A good rest would be vital for drivers who'd be tackling another 500 kilometers of rough and hazardous terrain today. Only 35 of the 56 cars which had started yesterday made it to the finish. We asked leading driver Greg Weevil about the event so far.
The route is similar to was today. It'll be good. I think I've concentrated on how to drive now. It's very rough out there. I find I drove to my first roof. But if it's like it was today, I feel confident about tomorrow.
Repairs, food and sleep were priorities for the motorcyclists. Of the 73 who started yesterday morning, 32 had reached the overnight stop. The treacherous passes had obviously taken their toll, and riders were apprehensive about what to expect today.
I just had a problem with my bike. I blew a head gasket and I had to put water in. I stopped twice for water, but really coming home I just nursed it from the top of the bottom of the one pass rampires, which was just cruising home. I think the other others were cruising as well behind me because they had the same problems. But it was a heavy day. I hope tomorrow we don't go near those passes again.
The dreaded Letsitele Pass was negotiated with relative ease by Jeremy Davies on his Truck Africa KTM.
Well, Letsitele was the first pass, and that was really rough. All the bikes spoiled and overheated there, and we got to the top. We went over rampires. Rampires wasn't too bad. Easier than Letsitele's, but a lot of work.
Errol Dalton didn't enjoy Letsitele too much either. The lethal rocks and steep incline making progress very slow.
I had an excellent run up Letsitele, no problems at all. I had a hell of a good day today.
Leading 200 rider Brian Bontekoning had an advantage up Letsitele in that his Winston Yamaha would have been considerably lighter than the 500s, favoured by some competitors. Despite that, the pass wasn't exactly a pleasure cruise for him. Even after the sunset in the Malutis, feverish activity continued in the pits. Many of the cars and motorcycles had suffered mechanical damage, and those who were able to worked on repairs. Today's leg of the event would be the equivalent length of a normal national, although conditions would be tougher. Both competitors and their machines would take some heavy punishment. Dinner time is when competitors congregate around the braai fires to compare notes and share post-mortems about the day's happenings. Today's racing section 2 would be 476 kilometers long for the two-wheelers and 453 for the cars. Exactly 64 competitors would be starting, 32 of each. The battle among the leading bikes was expected to be exciting, with the country's top talent bunched into the first 6 competitors off the start line. Arrested Jeremy Davies was the first to blast his Truck Africa KTM off into the hills.
Apparently the marking is not very good today, so I don't know what will happen. We'll either find our way or we're all going to get lost.
For Alfie Cox on his Fort Fire Kawasaki, the 7-minute 14-second gap between he and Davies meant some hard riding was necessary to close the gap. A pep talk for leading 500 rider Errol Dalton on his BP Hutz diesel Kawasaki from manager Hilton Beattie. Dalton was in a healthy 3rd position.
Today's going to be a bit of a problem because there is gaps where there's no marking. They just told us to keep, to the river or whatever. That will give them, let them find a way. I think I'm in the right position, so maybe I can get to them.
No wonder clerk of the course, Peter Luck, looks bleary-eyed. It's 5:30 a.m., but it's never too early for Willie Island to give the crowd a show on his Super Tyres KTM. Countdown for riders leaving at 10-second intervals. Amongst them Hilton Haywood on his Super Tyres KTM, John Hodgson on the Pelham Products KTM, and Frans Sepik Jr. on another 250 KTM. 40 minutes separated the leading 6 cars. Notably absent were Klaus Degener, Philip Milan and Avi Reinecker, all of them retired. There are always a million things to do at the last minute and the spectators love it. It would be a tough day for leaders Greg Weeble and Warren Klaassen in their Raceco Kojima would have to fight to maintain their lead. And in a crucial 2nd position, Harry Roscoe would have to pull out all the stops in his Protea playing card Raceco. 3rd off were Richard Schilling and Robbie Walk in the Mototech Raceco. Max Carolyn and Kenny Scholdhammer's Castrol Yokohama Porsche was in 4th spot, but a hefty 38 minutes behind leader Weeble. His Porsche engine car could expect some fast and furious racing. Truck Africa KTM rider Jeremy Davies shared a roof win with rival Alfie Cox 2 years ago. If he maintained his lead over Cox now, he might just scoop that solo victory. Cox was giving Davies a flat-out chase on the Fort Fire Kawasaki. With 3 roof wins already to his credit, achieving his 4th would make Cox's day. Errol Dalton wasn't slow either. His BP Hutz diesel Kawasaki 500 had left the start line a mere 3 seconds after Cox. Poetry in motion from Willie Island on his Super Tyres KTM. Off-roaders must be suckers for punishment. Who else would enjoy travelling for miles over this kind of terrain? Brian Bontekoning found he and his Winston Yamaha had to proceed with caution down this boulder-strewn section of the route, which was about a 1/3 into the race and in the Sohong area. This Roof of Africa stuff is hard work. Behind Bontekoning, ever-popular Kevin Tebbett proceeded with just as much care on his Sun City Honda. This kind of terrain is all part of the challenge the event offers. Endurance is the name of the game. So are perseverance and tenacity. But when the going gets tough, even the tough can take a tumble, proving that despite being a veteran of the sport, anyone can make a mistake. The The only privateer in the first 10 starters had been Willie Venter, who was running consistently on his Yamaha 250. Also making steady progress and riding consistently was John Hodgson on the Pelham Products KTM 250. We're alive with the sound of raceco's. There was action aplenty from Harry Roscoe's, who'd moved into first position and was flying along in the Protea playing card single-seater. Roscoe's been experiencing bad luck this season, but if he kept up his present pace and suffered no problems like punctures or breakdowns, he could very well be the first Class 9 since 1985 to win this prestigious event. Minutes behind Roscoe were Richard Schilling and navigator Robbie Walk, equally swift in their Motortake Raceco. The third Raceco in the chase belonged to overnight leaders Greg Wiebel and Warren Klaassen, who dropped back and were running 16 minutes behind Schilling. Despite this being his first ever roof, Wiebel has proved he's the stuff of which winners are made. Joining in the Raceco scrum as they tore through Lesotho's veld were Bix Carolyn and Kenny Schultheimer in their Castrol Yokohama Porsche-powered car. Lying fifth at this stage were Class 2 leaders Derek Pinoy and Antoine Meyring, whose little Foxy Beetle was behaving like a star. Leaders of Class 5 were Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington in their Toyota Hilux 4x4. 8th overall and bringing home the Class 3s were Theo Creer and Piet Liebenberg in the Mazda Bakkie, who so far had run a very consistent race. Linton Draper was looking good in his Nissan Safari as he and Mike Pretorius held on to 9th overall and the Class 6 lead. At the finish, the crowds waited for the first motorcyclist. Rain and hail in the mountains had slowed riders down by almost 2 hours. The first motorcycle appears, and it's Alfie Cox on the Ford Fire Kawasaki. Incredibly, this Peter Maritzburg rider has just won his 4th Roof of Africa. An ecstatic Hazel Cox hugs her husband.
I don't believe this, man. Well done. Thank you.
Second man home on the Truck Africa KTM was a disappointed Jeremy Davies, who'd lost the lead after getting lost.
Yeah, we've had a good go today.
It was a triumphant finish for former roof winner Willie Ireland, whose Super Tyres KTM reached the checkered flag less than 4 minutes after Davies.
We were in front today and there was just no markers. No, I'm telling you, we went for 2-3 kilometers, Jeremy and I, guessing, and we found markers. It's ridiculous, man. You know, a person throws a whole race away because the course is not marked properly. You know, I just feel for other people too, you know.
First car home was the Motortake Raceco of last year's winner Richard Schilling and navigator Rob Walk. In second place were Greg Wiebel and Warren Klaassen in the Raceco Kojima.
It was very tough. Take my hat off to Greg Wiebel. He gave us a hard time today. We've got to have rest.
Tune in to the Channel of Champions next Tuesday for edited highlights of the Mnet Lesotho Sun Roof of Africa Rally, 7th round of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship. Total, earning our stripes for you, earning our stripes in motorsport.